Uh-oh. The heck? My
Yeah, it does that
video
for some
dropped
reason
off.
sometimes.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, then it's back.
so like the old wooden sailing ships that have taken a bunch of cannonballs and you're just
That's what
stitched
Jitsi
together
is.
with like tar. That's what my life is, to be honest. But especially my streaming thing, just like
Streaming
make it
life.
work. I'm using this like open source type Jitsi thing for the video. I'm using OBS for this thing. I'm just kind of
Why we're
like
using all
taping
this
all
internet
together.
stuff? Why don't I just lay a cable from here all the way to your house? From our office right to your house. It's a hardwired cable, good old fashioned.
Put it right in the
Now
back
this
of the head
internet,
right there.
other these you know these new packet systems, internet mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, I mean, why do we need to? It kind of reminds me a little bit of the old school like BTC
Can and
arguments
string.
of people that think like the very first blockchain is the only way any blockchain can ever
Yeah,
work. And it's like, yeah,
exactly.
it's kind of like the
This
old,
can and string works just fine.
yes, can it's. I don't know if that had
Anything
actually
else is
worked.
way too complex. It's just everything else is way too complex.
Yeah. Well, I mean, good news is we are streaming on not only YouTube but also Odyssey, the library-based platform, which
Ah,
speaking
very
speaking
nice,
to
very
the
nice.
SEC and such, but it
Actually,
does work quite well. And
let me
more
actually do
people.
one more thing to hopefully help here. Is I'm going to turn off Wi-Fi to make absolutely sure you still there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, because I am on a wired connection as well, so I want to turn off the Wi-Fi to make sure I'm on wired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, anyway, Uh, let me just see. We got one person watching there. Got two watching somewhere else. Um, wait till we got like one more person watching. That's the other thing is like when you have expectations and things, like
Oh, is
it's
this
like
live?
yes,
Oh,
just
it's
random,
live. That's
just
right.
random smack talking. Which this is gonna be
Got it.
great for like the audio only people. They're like listening on like Spotify or whatever later. They're gonna be like, man, it's like several minutes in and they don't even know what they're doing. But that's kind of how I like
Is
just
all of it everything we've been saying is basically live
yes, the last couple
and
minutes.
recorded?
But
Last
that's
couple
fine.
minutes. Okay,
But that's fine. Not the entire thing. That would have been a little weird. Um,
I got it.
but hey, I mean, it's a good
Let's
time.
do it.
Yeah. So hey, everyone, welcome to Thursday, not Friday. It's Friday at 3 p.m. without fail, except when it fails, like a week like today when I have to go travel. And so, yeah, all the people waiting around, where's my Friday dose of whatever? Well, it's on Thursday. So maybe we'll have like a double hitter of views. A bunch of people, only the lucky few are going to watch it live. So,
You're gonna
um,
dox yourself and say where you're going on Friday and why the shows had to
um,
move over to Thursday.
to a little bit because it might have a little bit of a work relevancy is like going to Miami. It's
Ah,
so
okay.
not for work, but I'm going to try to find a way to check out the crypto scene there. If there
Oh,
is indeed a crypto scene, especially if I could buy
mm,
something with
maybe
crypto there. And I don't know if you know
that
anything
might be
about
tough.
that, but yeah, yeah, I'm spoiled up here in New Hampshire where I go buy a lot of things. But uh,
Might have had some experience in my prior years building a merchant directory where people can use Bitcoin to buy stuff.
yeah,
It feels almost like a previous life at this point, like using Bitcoin to buy stuff for merchants. But
ain't
hopefully,
that a
it'll come
sad
back
thing to
again one
say?
day.
Yeah, that might be a good thing to touch on a little bit towards the end when we start running into the filler segment of all this. But anyway, let's just roll the intro graphic and then go right into stuff. So hey everyone, I'm sure you, as you heard me chat, I'm with the one and only Paul Puey of Edge, or Edge Wallet, or I would just say Edge, the Lord Edgington of the Edges, whatever you want to call it. But how's it going, Paul?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks for having me, Joel. Thanks for accommodating and moving us over into the Thursday. We're still able to do this podcast and get the word out to your listeners.
Yeah,
Let's hammer it away even a little day early. Give people a little bit of an early recap on what's been going on.
yeah, it's great. Especially, I mean, I've been the one who's been screwing up lately because this is the first live of this show. Well, no, I did one last week, but I had a little bit of a separation anxiety with my live listeners because I was traveling when we were scheduled. I was in California, which apparently doesn't have, it does have good Wi-Fi and all that, but I like every single technical piece of equipment I had failed simultaneously, and I've had to replace them all, including especially
Ah,
this microphone. And so I had to cancel that, and then I'm like, all right, next week or 2 weeks from now or whatever it was, and then it's just like, hey, guess what? I gotta rearrange it two times in a row. So yeah, Thanks for sticking
So
it
maybe
out with my crazy. Yeah.
next time you're in California, swing on by our office. We can do this show right from our podcasting room.
I'll end up doing that at some point. It was a little
Yeah.
bit too far
Yeah.
north
Understand.
for that, but I'll make it
Next
make it
time.
work eventually. So
For sure.
one thing thought it's like the Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's a name I've not heard in a long time, kind of a meme. Well, I was looking at the Cointelegraph today. Shout out to Cointelegraph, and they said this headline: SEC closes in on settlements with U.S. Bitconnect promoters for millions. So I hadn't heard of the Bitconnect in a very long time.
Super long time.
Yeah, and apparently
Although
the
ironically, it's come up, I feel like, in recent news as a way
mm-hmm,
to almost slam at crypto by showing some of its kind of negative history from 2017. Like Bitconnect
mm-hmm.
came up, it kind of resurfaced even before the SEC news came out. But you're right, from as far as hearing about it in mainstream and people actually promoting it, yeah, we haven't heard about that in years. It sounds like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, and so essentially they're nearing settlements with four US based individuals accused of promoting the multi billion-dollar crypto Ponzi scheme. So they're not like, it's not like judgments, they're settlements, right? They're like mutual agreements, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
They're
a
like, we
little,
did something bad. You pay this amount of money, and we'll call it good.
yeah. And it's very strange to me that this is the like biggest Ponzi scheme it's like literally synonymous with scams in crypto and with
Yeah.
scams period kind of. It's one of the big ones. And the people that helped, scam people, which is, it's a bad thing to do. You're stealing money from people. Uh, they're getting, it's kind of like they're getting, I feel like they're sort of getting a slap on the wrist in this. They're just saying like, yeah, you pay us some money, maybe millions, but still, you made more than that. You're paying us some money, and then, yeah, it'll be fine. You know, we don't hate you guys that much. Do you get the same sort of feeling from this?
Depending on what that number comes to. So they say they're settling for millions. What is millions? Is it a 1 million? Is it 999 million? And then the question is, how much money did any individual that might have to pay these settlements make in this
Mm-hmm.
scam? There's $1 billion kind of industry or the company, but how much money did any one of these individuals end up reaping in rewards from creating this scam? Now, the goal is that the punishment exceeds what you made. If it didn't, then, well, and funny thing is, then you're treating BitConnect like most banks. Ironically, where banks go and money launder billions of dollars and they're going to get slapped with a $10 million fine and nobody goes to jail. So I'm almost kind of torn about it in that sense. Like, well, this is the biggest scam, but you only fine them. Then again, free market says, well, your ass shouldn't have been scammed in the first place. Do your own due diligence. And then at the same time say, well, you don't really punish the banks, so I guess you're at least being fair to
Mm-hmm.
crypto world and punishing them the way you would punish the stupid banks. So it's got my emotions just kind of swinging left and right, up and down. There's not a
Yeah.
good way to really ascertain my thoughts behind this, because there's that freedom loving individual in me. It says just leave me alone. Yet at the same time, you do these things for the banks, then you're in your and you are still charging people, and it's by letter of the law, and it's going to be upheld by guns that people have to pay this money, but people did lose. It's all confusing in the end. Hard to actually have a good, concrete, strong feeling about the outcome of BitConnect and the SEC, settling with them.
Yeah. It's also when I said about that's not a name I haven't heard in a long time. How long has it taken for them to get judgment on this? I mean, it wasn't BitConnect like 2017 is when it went away
Yeah,
when and then it's just like it was the most obvious scam forever and it was like all over the place. People use a little BitConnect logo and they slap on a project they don't like and some meme or gif or something. And they've taken them this long. It's like, what if all the millions they got, they just put it into crypto? And now how many are they trillionaires
yeah,
now that they can just pay a little bit? It seems a little bit strange, especially in context with other things that they've done, that the SEC's done, which is like they've gone after very few things at all. They kind
yeah.
of went after EOS a little bit and just said, "Oh yeah, you did a flagrant like, illegal
Raise.
securities offering
Yep,
and we just want a little bit of that and then you're good to go." And
yep. That's pretty much what they did.
it's weird and
And the
it, of
same thing
course
is probably going to happen to XRP. It's a $1 billion company. They've got a lot of resources. And basically, my take is I'm really curious to what happens behind the scenes in these discussions.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to almost say you can probably search and replace settlement with bribe, in the sense that, yeah, we're just going to pay the government some amount of money that seems like a lot to the average individual, right? Not to billionaires out there. It seems like, oh my God, millions of dollars. I'm only making five figures a year. It feels like a lot of money, but in the end, it's nothing compared to what the company can make, is worth. And so it's, hey, it's a little bribe, not much different than, I grew up in the Philippines for a portion of my life. There, if you get pulled over by a cop for speeding, if you actually say, sure, I'll take the ticket, they'll take your license away from you because they want a bribe. Like,
Hmm.
give me a bribe. They literally ask you, all right, give me $50, because it's more of a pain for them to issue you a ticket. They don't get any money out of it. And then you could fight the ticket. They might have to walk into an actual court at work on their off hours and battle with you on whether or not you actually were speeding. So yeah, it's just, that's a smaller version of a bribe. This is potentially a bigger version of a bribe. Let us alone. No one goes to jail.
Yeah, and it's very that's reminiscent of my own childhood. Growing up in the north of Mexico, where I've seen my dad pay off the cops many times because that's just what was
Yeah,
done. La mordida,
that's what you
the
do.
bite.
That's the ticket. The ticket is the
Yeah,
bribe.
yeah, and that's the way
Exactly.
the world honestly works. Whether, although it's a little bit more obvious here in a vague kind of a thing like the SEC. Now, in terms of something like EOS, where just they made a bunch of money in a way that the rules, whatever that means, said that they couldn't do,
Mm-hmm.
then they pay the regulatory agency some. But here with Bitconnect, we have people who scammed like everyday people and ruined lives and took fortunes, and they just got to pay reparations to someone who absolutely did not get harmed at all. And that's what's a little bit weird about this. It's like all
That's
these
true.
millions, like, what are they going to go back to the victims? I highly doubt it.
Right, exactly. So that's the part that they haven't really made clear in any of the articles, at least that I had read. So if there is a portion of that that would go back to victims and people can claim that they had some notable losses,
Mm-hmm.
then there's some fairness and justice in that. As much as I don't like the fact that it's being enforced by guns, so there's at least some fairness in that regard. And hopefully, at least to me, it's a lesson learned. Like, definitely do some better due diligence before putting money into random projects. And I think the problem with feeling like wanting BitConnect to have a stiffer fine, like say, hey, this is
Mm-hmm.
nothing. They made a bunch of money. Find them even larger. Is that's a slippery slope, because now you get SEC involved, government involved, and SEC is U.S. based, but realize that there's SEC equivalents all over the world, and this becomes the not the beacon of hope, but the opposite of a beacon of hope. But it's the red flag that makes other regulators and jurisdictions say, oh well, let's make sure we watch out and protect those little guys, right? And what have most governments done to protect the little guys from scams? They just don't let them invest. Period. Right? You just
Yeah.
don't have that opportunity, because those are the people, unfortunately, that by and large probably lost a lot of money with BitConnect. Were there VCs that invested in BitConnect? Angel investors that invested in BitConnect? There may have been some angels, because there's tons of angel investors out there that are accredited investors. But by and large, there's likely, and this is a guess, so no one take my word for it, but my hunch is there were a lot of smaller non-accredited investors that invested a lot of money in BitConnect and lost their money, and that feeds into the narrative that governments have of quote unquote protecting the smaller investors, which to me is the most unfortunate piece, because now
Yeah.
you're protecting them from potentially really good, um, legitimate investments that have 100x return capability, which they've never really had access to because they always had to wait for companies to go public and so forth. So that's why I'm a little bit torn about this. And I'm not the kind of person that's going to push for harsher punishment. I'd rather push for, um, no punishment, but across the board, and give people equal access to investment opportunities. Have people learn from those mistakes, because I think probably the reason why people are falling for these scams is because they have been so coddled. Right, the
Mm-hmm.
government has coddled people away from, having to do due diligence and try to do due diligence for them. But part of that is restricting them from being able to invest in higher risk, higher reward investment opportunities. So once they finally have an opportunity at what they think is a high risk, high reward investment opportunity, they jump on it and they don't do the due diligence because they're used to the government protecting them. And
Yeah.
that's there's a bit of a tug of war there. It's like, do you protect your kid, or you let them put their finger in the outlet and learn? Same type of analogy. How much do you protect someone? Well, you don't want them to kind of destroy themselves, but at the same time, you want them to learn. And I think we've gone overboard, at least in the U.S. government, with coddling people to the degree that they don't even bother to look and check and do their own research.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big warning sign I see about our old friend Doge over there is obviously Doge is a legit fake project, a legit joke project, right? That it's been
Yeah.
around for a while. The power of the meme has been fun internet tipping money kind of thing, and kind of was on its way to the dustbin of history. Then Elon rescued it from there. But then you have stuff like Shiba Inu token and all this other stuff, and I'm just like, oh god, like how long until this like messes it up for the rest of us? How long do you keep going with these like basically scams kind of or jokes? They're not even scams because I don't even know if they're
Yeah.
duping investors. They're just
They even tried. They were even
nonsense.
what is it? I want to say Arnold Palmer, Jackson Palmer,
Mm.
when he created Doge, even said it was a joke. He admitted it was a joke. It wasn't. I'm not trying to make any money off this thing. Either that, or he had really kick-ass reverse psychology that normally works only on a 4-year-old, but you know, got everyone
Or
else to
Elon
buy in on the
Musk.
fact that it's a joke. Or Elon Musk, right? But I think I it did get me to realize that joke or not, money's just whatever people decide to put their faith into and
Mm-hmm.
decide to give value to and to trade value with. And if that happens to be something that was originally a joke, it so be it, right? Money is money as long as two people give something value and it becomes money. Now, there's moneyness, right? How money is something. Like what are the traits of money? Divisibility, transportability, but yada yada. Now, Doge ticks off a lot of those things much like Bitcoin does. So if it ticks off the moneyness and at least two people agree that it is a way to transfer value and that they will hold some of it to give it value, then it's just as much money as Bitcoin. It just has very different origins. That's really it. Very different origins, but on a moneyness level, not drastically different. Sure, it has more inflation than Bitcoin, but at least it's known. Most money in the world, we don't actually know what the limit is. We don't know what the limit of gold is. The hardest money on earth prior to Bitcoin was gold, and we don't actually know how much of it exists. So ask yourself that. In the history of money, we've been able to use money without that hard 21 million cap or X or N number of coins cap, but it still worked. And Doge can work just as well. Will people adopt it? We'll see.
Yeah, it's probably not, but we'll have our fun in the meantime. But
Yeah,
speaking
yeah.
of adoption of digital currencies and ones like it's not the right one, you're not using the right one or whatever, we got this whole digital yuan thing going on, right? It's
Uh,
been the central bank cryptocurrency, whatever idea has been around since basically ever since people figured out that crypto might be here to stay someday.
yeah.
And now it seems like they're actually making a lot more like leeway, a lot more progress in getting this sort of universally adopted.
Yeah.
First off, any predictions on the digital yuan specifically?
I think it will have zero impact on kind of financial inclusion, on the economy of China, on the ability, on people's interest in using the yuan. I mean, let's slowly boil down what cryptocurrency advantages are. What are the advantages of cryptocurrency in the first place, right? Um, Censorship resistance. Will a CBDC such as the digital yuan be censorship resistant? I can almost guarantee not. I mean, China is almost synonymous with censorship. They're not going to allow this thing to be transported anywhere in the world to anyone in the world from anyone in the world. No way. If they do, then I'm mind blown. Like I'm absolutely mind blown if they're going to allow this coin to just be censorship resistant. Oh, okay. So I don't think that's going to happen. Um, is it going to have some kind of known fixed monetary supply? Well, guess what? A CBDC is not a currency. So I hate the fact that it has that last C. It should just be
Mm-hmm.
CBD. But then again, there's cooler things called CBD,
Of course.
right? So they got that. I got to add that C at the very end to call it a currency. But in my mind, it's not a currency. It is a payment network. It's like calling Visa a currency. It's like calling
Mm-hmm.
Mastercard a currency. They are payment networks for another currency. Visa and Mastercard can transport dollars, euros, and many other different currencies. A quote unquote CBDC is a payment network for the shitcoin of the yuan. It's simply as simple as that. Just like a CBDC in the US would be a payment network for the dollar, just like USDC and USDT are payment networks for the dollar. And so I almost kind of hate the fact that they're listed on CoinMarketCap. Like
Yeah.
why are we listing those on CoinMarketCap? Like the supply and the market cap is just whatever people decide to lock up from one payment network to another. You're just taking the cash and banking payment network and transferring funds from that into the blockchain payment network of the exact same currency. So the market cap to me is 100% irrelevant in that regard. Um, Now, I do think, however, the market cap of some of the Algorithmic stablecoins is somewhat meaningful. So, such as DAI, DOC, because that shows that people are willing to lock up a real cryptocurrency, such as ETH or Bitcoin, in order to generate this stablecoin. So, there's a bit more value in that sense to knowing what the market cap of an algorithmic stablecoin. But back to the digital yuan, I don't know how it's going to be different than most bank transfers today, other than maybe being more Venmo-like and more um, standardized across the country, as opposed to having to use um, WeChat for payments and other different various apps for payments. It'll be government standardized payment network. But that's really all I consider. It's just a government standardized payment network, of which many countries, especially in South America, you might be more familiar with them. Countries in South America, I believe, such as Mexico, already have a standardized government payment network that's fast and quick and works across people and businesses.
Yeah. So, is there really, other than hype, is there really any point to doing one of these kinds of central bank digital currencies, or as they like to call themselves?
I think it's just nomenclature. It's hype around the nomenclature. You're saying digital currency, and digital currency. While I don't believe Bitcoin, ETH are digital currencies, because currencies have been digital for a long time already. Um, I think that they're hopping on that train. They're hopping on the nomenclature train, the buzzword train, to get people excited about it, and to also discredit the need for real cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and ETH, Dash, BCH, and whatnot. I think it's really that attempt. Let's discredit and take away some of the utility. Admittedly, there is a piece of utility that I'll give CBDCs credit for, is by centralizing and standardizing the payment method within a country.
Hmm.
People that may have had friction in sending money between each other within a country because you're on a different bank. Like, as an example, it takes a day for me to pay our credit card, which is with one bank, using our checking account in our company with another bank. It takes a day to do that because these two banks aren't on the same network. And so therefore there's the settlement issue that they have to deal with. Now, if there was, a standardized CBDC of the dollar, then maybe these two can transmit easily and I can pay out of my own wallet directly to the bank account. So it is an inherent benefit from within the same users of a specific currency, a more seamless method of paying. And I think it does have a negative ramification on all of the fiat fintech companies. So the Venmos, the PayPals of the world, the WeChats of the world, especially in China, because WeChat was the definitive standard payment method prior to any digital yuan that may come about. So it does have a negative impact on those companies. I don't think it has a negative impact on real cryptocurrencies because we have the core advantages that these governments will never give to their CBDCs.
Yeah, that seems to be pretty straightforward. It just kind of it's funny because people are thinking crypto and blockchain and all this cool stuff, and then they're thinking, well, let's take some of the benefits of it, but make it like a centralized, safe way. But in essence, it seems like it's literally does. It's like it's not just, well, it's not real crypto. Okay, well, that's obvious, but it seems like it's not even anything really.
It's
It's
not
just
crypto. It's really, yeah. It's what if
it.
what if the U.S. government basically bought PayPal, right, and then said
Mhm.
everybody now has access to PayPal, businesses, individuals, and you can now use a PayPal wallet, and that becomes the de facto standard of transferring money between businesses, between people and businesses, business to people. Now you could then you call the dollar a CBDC. There's no technical difference. There'd be no
Yeah.
different. There'd be no technical difference because you'd have to KYC in order to be able to use the service. You would have to use their specific systems and network to be able to access funds. Wouldn't be permissionless. It wouldn't be censorship resistant, but it would be a central bank issued because it is let's kind of break apart the different initials, different letters in CBDC. Central bank digital currency, CBDC. Central bank issued. Well, that's the actual currency underneath the payment method. It's the
Hmm.
yuan. It's the dollar, right? So the fact that central bank issued, just say, well, it's just a fiat, government fiat. Digital currency. Well, currency is already digital. It just didn't have a good standardized payment rail. The US dollar doesn't have a good standardized payment rail. Neither does the yuan. So that's really it. It's a standardized dollar payment rail for people in the US and a standardized yuan rail for people in China. They may grant access to people outside of the country, much like you could have a WeChat account outside of the country, but that's definitely very permissioned.
Yeah.
That's that's all it is. It's a PayPal that's now been purchased by the government and standardized across the country.
Now, before you fully move on to other topics, I think it was interesting you were saying about how the coin market cap rankings. I mentioned this offhandedly a few months ago. I think that like a bunch of the top cryptos are fiat, and like especially when Tether was like top three or something like that,
Yeah,
and it's just
yeah,
like it's a little bit strange. But so I agree, obviously, that they should not really count as cryptos because it's just basically fiat that's on a blockchain network. It's not like, you know, they're not actually, it's not kind of its own thing. And at the
hmm
same time, some of these, like for example, I don't, as much as I don't trust the dollar, I trust that Tether is an accurate representation of the dollar even less. Like it's like a fractional
yeah.
reserve of a fractional reserve,
Fractional
possibly.
reserve.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
like that old school meme
It's a
back in the
derivative of a derivative of where your base is already shitty to begin with.
yeah. Yo, dog, I heard you like fractional reserves, so I get a fractional reserve of your fractional reserve.
Of
It's
your
kind of that
reserve.
whole thing. Now, at the same time, algorithmic stablecoins, which of course are a much, I guess more pure concept of the form stablecoin, and
Mhm.
this kind of has to do with any kind of a coin. Uh, should they necessarily like when you're counting them on like coin market cap, for example? Uh, the only reason they have value is because they have a whole bunch of, let's just say Ethereum behind them. And so if you're still
Yeah,
counting the Ethereum as the Ethereum market cap, but then you're counting a stable coin that's on Ethereum,
exactly.
are you double counting? Should you
You
subtract
kind of
that
are.
from Ethereum's?
You kind of are, but at the same time, you also have to factor in the fact that that Ethereum that is locked in order to
Mm-hmm.
stabilize DAI is no longer tradable.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, you can think of it as being burned, right? It's kind
Yeah.
of burned in order to mint another coin. So you're kind of double counting, but you're kind of not, right?
Mm.
It's hard to give a good formula for how much Ethereum, dollar wise of Ethereum, you should consider to be burned because now there's the existence of DAI. Maybe it's not 100% all the DAI is counted, the full market cap of DAI versus the full market cap of Ether. There is some, some kind of formula that one could, in their mind, claim, okay, this is the true market cap of all of the top 100 cryptocurrencies, and factor DAI is something less than what its total value is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a little double counting, but that's what happens with derivatives. What's the true total supply of something when it's a derivative of a derivative? Same thing with like the money supply. You've got M1, M2, M3, do you just add them all up and then you've got the money, the total dollars in the system? A little more complicated that, which is what makes the actual calculation a little bit squishy. But I
Yeah.
definitely feel like that's at least, if you are going to count all the DAI dollar value plus all the Ethereum dollar value, that's far more fair of a definition of crypto market cap than counting USDC and Tether, just dollar value, pure dollar value in and of itself. Because the only thing backing that are dollars.
Yeah. In that sense, if there was a gold-backed cryptocurrency, which you know why, but if they had one of those, then you'd probably not count that either because it's backed by gold. It's not
Yeah.
its own value.
Well, so the funny thing is that there's a bit of this cyclical formula and calculation. So when you're trying to find the market cap of crypto, but you're including as part of that, but I'm sorry, you're trying to find the market cap of crypto denoted in dollars, right? So
Mm.
what are you denoting that market cap? And if you're denoting it in dollars, but you're including dollars that are in the system, right? That are, so it's not like you're comparing crypto market cap to the supply of dollars. What I like to think of as the crypto market cap versus the supply of dollars, because those are kind of the competing numbers. When crypto market cap could potentially exceed dollars or take a very large percentage of dollars, that I think is when what I call kind of the mental flippening happens. And
Mm.
when crazy amount of inflation could be caused to dollars because of everyone's desire to transfer wealth into crypto. But that becomes less relevant when a large portion of the crypto market cap is just basically dollars that are locked into it, right? That comparison between the two becomes less relevant. Gold, however, when you tokenize gold on crypto, you're not asking for, hey, what's the market cap of all of cryptocurrency in ounces of gold or
Mm.
grams of
Yeah.
gold? You're asking for it relative to dollars. So in a way, the crypto space now starts to incorporate other assets that are not dollars. They're not dollars, but as a whole, the total crypto market cap of gold and ETH and Bitcoin are now as a whole competing against the dollar market cap. So now it becomes even fuzzier, but
Of
still
course.
a better comparison than and a better asset to include in the total market cap than just a dollar coin, a Tether or a USDC.
Yeah, it's very strange. And also when you start thinking about, for example, Ethereum and tokens that are locked up Ethereum, if there's enough of
Mm-hmm.
those, and especially when you think about Horizon, when they're pivoting to be a sidechain platform, and essentially almost everything's going to be a sidechain there. Like, what is the value of the sidechain?
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, you could see like maybe I don't know where they're at coin market cap these days because it doesn't really matter anymore. But you could see
Yeah.
like the next 50 coins be just like all Horizon, and even though they're like there's a the so let's expand that to, let's say, Ethereum. If this happened a lot with Ethereum, how many Ethereum denominated coins or Ethereum backed coins are in the top 100 on CoinMarketCap? There might be
Yeah.
quite a few, but then you go to a
Exactly.
different, and it just like even like what's the actual one right behind Ethereum? Who knows? Because like all of Ethereum is behind all of Ethereum. You know, of
Yeah.
on another level though, what about Ethereum tokens that are they're not backed by they run on the Ethereum network, but they're not guaranteed by Ethereum. They're their own thing with its
Right.
own value. Is that and should that obviously it I guess it should count for whatever people value them as. However, at the same
Mhm.
time, when you're talking about a top coin, like is it a top 10 coin if it's an Ethereum token versus whatever the top 11 thing, which is its own blockchain, from the standpoint of what is a more legit project like than what
Yeah. Well,
is?
legit project, that's hard to say. That has nothing to do with market
Mm-hmm.
cap, in my opinion. But as far as a legit coin project token that should be included in coin market cap and factored into the top 10, top 100, factored into the total cryptocurrency market cap, I would say that a project that launches their own coin, even if it is a token on Ethereum and achieves value independently of Ethereum, meaning it doesn't require Ethereum
Mm-hmm.
to be backed, that is the most legitimate type of asset to be included in a market cap ranking, because
Mm-hmm.
all of the value in that comes from people wanting to hold that, not by backing it with something else. So it has no underlying asset backing it. It's purely its own value, its own utility, its own kind of rarity for store value, if that's what it's trying to be, or its own payment capability, if it's trying to be a payment network type of a coin. Whatever utility it holds, it purely holds value based on that. It's kind of like evaluating a company, like a startup, on how much they make in sales, like how much revenue they generate versus expenses, versus how much equipment they have in their office,
Mm-hmm.
right? Kind of a token that's backed by ETH is kind of like that money, and it's kind of like the equipment you have in your office, not what that token can actually do. It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Except that you have that underlying asset underneath it, kind of muddying the waters of its true market cap value. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
it's purely, hey, it's the revenue generate minus your expenses, and we don't care about the equipment you have in your office, then it's just your utility. That's a bit more pure and a more pure mapping onto its true market cap value.
Yeah, well, that's again something a lot of people don't really take into account when they just look at the thing. But that sort of rolls into this
Yeah.
next one here, which is, according to a new survey, 21% of UK crypto investors say they know almost nothing about it. So, 21%. So the UK, I'm sure there's worse, but probably the US is even worse, I would guess. But they admit that they know almost nothing about it. Uh, so first, what's your hot take on this?
So first, my hot take is only 21%.
Well, they admit it though.
Someone, yeah, it's only 21% that admit it. So I, I give credit to those 21%. At least they're admitting it. I feel like there's a lot much higher percentage that don't know anything about it. Or I guess we have to define what is know anything. I've heard the word Bitcoin, and then someone might say, yeah, I know something about it because they've heard the word and they've watched Fox News or whatever equivalent over there in the UK is. That could be a very different beast than at the basics knowing what is unique about crypto versus regular money and payment networks. If someone, as an example, I have interviewed a bunch of people for some open positions we have over at Edge, and I ask them, like, and these are people that usually have some interest in crypto, and ask, like, what's the core value add of crypto? Well, what's different about it? Why is it unique? And 19 out of 20 can't tell me.
Do
Even
they
though they've heard
try?
of it, they've bought it, they try, but they just simply can't. And most of them always veer into price go up. That's it. That's the only thing that they can think of, which is I buy it and it goes up. Dad, you should buy it because it goes up in value. And they can't even regurgitate the basics of it's money, it's digital money you can hold without a counterparty, a third party. It's money I can send to anywhere in the world as long as the sender and recipient just have an internet connection. That's it. That's all they need. And I can
Hmm.
send that money anywhere in the world. If they even mentioned that, that's a unique proposition that money doesn't have. And yeah, 19 out of 20 people couldn't even tell me that. So do I think that, 19 out of 20 is already what, 5%. Now, once again, that's the US. UK might be a little bit better than that. But if they can't say that, then yeah, like I said, it's probably worse than 21%. But people feel like they've listened to a little bit of the news and they see price go up and they think that they know anything about
Mm.
digital currency. But I wouldn't define them knowing anything until they know at least one of the core value propositions of it that doesn't exist, that did not exist before crypto.
Yeah, and there's of course different levels to what that knowledge can constitute. Like for example, what percentage of automobile drivers have any idea about the internal combustion engine, how it works? Like
Yeah,
two, maybe. I mean, I'm being generous, like 2%.
yeah, it's generous.
Like probably,
Yeah,
they might, maybe they changed the oil or the tire when they were a kid. They kind of know, but just how things go, the explosions inside, like it's just like it's all like
yeah,
steampunk nonsense to them, right? But they
yep,
still understand the core value proposition of engines, which is I can buy this thing, which is, an oil product. I could put it in here and
yeah.
it goes boom and makes me go this
It
way
goes
very far and
very far, very
efficiently. And I
fast.
can't get there on my horse. Like that, to everyone kind of understands the value proposition of the
Yeah,
car and the
they
internal
don't
combustion
understand with
engine.
crypto.
Yeah, they don't necessarily need to understand how proof of work works, how proof of stake works. They
No,
don't
they don't.
understand about block validation or anything. They don't even understand any of that stuff, but they understand that I can send money anywhere and I don't have to go through this nonsense that I go through with my bank. That should be a core value proposition.
But they don't
But
know that.
how many people today have been told, like, I still get new ish crypto investors or people who love to talk about it online, that they keep on saying that Bitcoin transactions are fast and cheap. And I'm like, I
They
know you
made the
were.
mistake of reading the white paper.
That's a, yeah, that's a Roger Ver scam coin point, as some people would say. But it's
Yeah.
true. Like that could have been true in 2016 if they got in then and they just didn't pay attention to it until now. It could have been possible even when, at the bottom of this last bear market in like 2019 or something like
Every
that.
few weeks of the past 3 years, it's been true.
Yes,
Let's
or
put it that way.
relatively
You
true.
have a few weeks every year. Every a few weeks every year, it's pretty true.
Yeah.
And of course, I know you've been dabbling
Mm-hmm.
with lightning, and in
Mm-hmm.
some use
It's
cases
my node right
of
there.
lightning, if you have things set up. Is that the dog? I'm only seeing the
No,
Doge, but
it's right. Oh, let me get it's this computer right here. This old
right
computer.
there.
I'm running a lightning
All
node
right.
on it. Yeah.
So, with the possibility of lightning being used for some forms of payments, it can be still fast and cheap. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think people just knowing the core value proposition of crypto as a whole and that censorship resistant, that global accessibility, most don't understand that. But you're right; they understand the value proposition of a car. And I think one of the challenges is that imagine if a car, when it first got invented, which
Mm-hmm.
most people did not see the value proposition because it was slower than a horse. It I love this analogy that Andreas
Mm-hmm.
Antonopoulos made, is that the horse was the original self-driving car. For the most part, it could, if you train it well, it would know where to go. It could park itself. Upon a whistle, it'll come and get you. It was
Mm-hmm.
literally like a self-driving car, and an actual car was a backwards technology.
Mm-hmm.
The first ones were dangerous. They ran really slow. They were bumpy. I mean, horses were bumpy too, but you had wooden wheels. You'd feel every single rock, whereas a horse at least had some shock absorption, right? You had the
Mm-hmm.
body of the horse, the muscles and whatnot. So you kind of went backwards with the first car. Imagine if that car, though, like crypto, you could buy and then sell it at a higher price. What would people be focusing on when they heard about this thing called the automobile? Like,
The
oh, I know
number
about
go up.
automobiles. Yeah, the number go up, right? But the fact that
Mm-hmm.
automobiles didn't have the number go up as soon as you bought it, walk it out of the dealership, right? Price tanks. Now people focus on the actual utility of the asset, which is it makes me go from A to B. Right? It's this
Mm-hmm.
new technology. I go to A to B. Sure, I still have to feed it, but I feed it gas. I don't feed it. I don't feed it hay, and I don't have
I
to
feed it
train it.
only when I use it.
If
You
you don't
know.
want to use it, and I don't have to train it, there's no break-in period. I just hop in it, and it's got some things that are worse about it, just like
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin versus PayPal. There's things that are worse about it, and there's things that are better about it. And the vision is that those things that are worse will improve over time, and the things that are better will continue to get even better. And the old system, i.e., the horse, in most ways, will be worse than the car, except for, of course, when you're off-roading and going down hills. But that's the horse has always been the great analogy, horse and car to crypto. Yeah, we're in this state where we have kind of still relatively shitty cars relative to the horse in many ways. And the price goes up. And that's all people are focusing on is this damn price go up. So they're literally buying cars just to resell them. And that's it. And not actually use them for the benefit that they have over the horse.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because um, it's a free market system, and a free market is always right. You just don't
Yeah.
understand or agree with the assessments
Yeah.
necessarily, but it's always right. And so what it's always been puzzling to it's puzzling to a lot of people of like why do these things get valued the way they are? Like what is the killer app of cryptocurrency? And it's funny the killer application of cryptocurrency as you described it to me as I understand it is not the killer app of cryptocurrency. The killer app according to the free market is that it allows your number to go up. And the market is
Mhm.
selected for that because it turns out that we're all talking about, oh, we don't get censored by governments, it's cheaper. All that we're talking about all this legit stuff that I care about way more than number go up personally. Otherwise, my number would have been a lot higher than it is now. But uh,
Yeah.
well, in the
Same
meantime,
here.
people just wanted something that the little guy could invest in and make money off of without
Yeah.
with all these barriers. It's basically without the SEC kind of. And so it's
Exactly.
funny because the I like to check in every once in a while with our good friend Ken Bozak because he is the heart and soul of the crypto world. He's the mascot, the heart and soul for better and also for worse. He is just it. And so
Yep.
his Batman origin story was basically he got close to 30, he started seeing gray in his beard. He's like, "Oh crap, I'm an adult now. What do adults do? They invest. I want to invest." And so he went to his bank and tried to buy some like Snapchat stock and they just laughed at him. Like
Good
that's not
enough.
how it works, kid. And then he got bummed out and then he heard that you could buy Bitcoin and you don't need to worry about that stuff and there you go right in. Just
Yep.
I'm a small investor person. I'm an average person. I want to buy something so my number goes up, and I don't really understand or trust 401ks and other things like that. I just like this is I want to do something, and then it goes to game stonks. Like, isn't it funny how the whole Robinhood, game stonks, all that stuff
Yep.
flowed seamlessly into Doge. Like it's a completely it's literal stocks and companies versus an online decentralized cryptocurrency, but the zeitgeist did not skip a beat in moving between the two because it's the exact same
Yep.
technology as far as they're concerned.
It's really the same mental thought process and ideology. It's a trying to pump up GameStop is kind of counterculture, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
all the big banks, a lot of the hedge funds that are trying to push it down. Well, we're going to pump it up. A lot of people think that Doge is a joke, even almost in the face of the large crypto currencies such as Bitcoin and ETH, which you can kind of almost call the blue chips of
Mm-hmm.
crypto. It it's the counterculture of big crypto. Well, we're going to pump our money into that as well. It really is that little guy David and Goliath type of mentality that's driven both GameStop and Doge in that time frame. There's the same people, the same kind of Reddit following, Wall Street Bets crew that are taking that same mentality and applying it across the board on different types of investments. And you can see why there's that transfer over of funds and mentality because it is very similar. It's that kind of David and Goliath feel. And that is something to watch out for. Like when enough small people gather efforts, they're like the army of ants. No one has any power. You get like millions of them. The herd combined will take out even the biggest elephant. So that's the piece that I think is it kind of rings true to the story of crypto in the first place. Like crypto is about flattening the pyramid of power. And at the
Mm-hmm.
very edge of the pyramid are the individuals, the people that historically have had less power, like the ants versus the Goliaths and the big animals. Um, it's it's ringing true to that rhetoric, and that's what was kind of exciting to see. Even if I didn't hold any GameStop or had very little Doge, it's still kind of exciting to see kind of the little guys elevate amidst the behemoths and the big guys.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the whole thing's really about is just can the little guy actually make some money? Now, if the big guys have,
Yeah,
all their things, and it's kind of funny, again, the free market, which I wouldn't say like I thought was wrong. Like I thought this can't be right that they're selecting for number go up because that's not the big problem. But then it turns out that is in the, you know, first off, in the non-Western world and the developing world, there's just not a lot of investment opportunities for the little guy compared with even here, where there are a few. And there's
hmm
just not a lot of opportunities to make it big. It's like playing the lottery, or it's like you get a fighter or something who like makes it to the top of like boxing or something
hmm
or MMA or whatever and makes a bunch of money. You're like, yeah, I want to be that guy because it's my way out of this misery. That's how I get
Yep.
ahead. And now there's a ticket. It's like a lottery, except it's not as gamed, or at least they don't think it's as gamed. It's like a ticket to get out of there. And then
Yeah.
for the developed world, there's still like that. Well, you can kind of 401k here and there, but then they want to. It's more speculative and less like these are my only way out of poverty. But it's still the same thing. They want democratization of being able to lift themselves out of wherever they're at.
Yep. Yep. Nope. Totally agree. That's kind of the challenge, but you're right. The free market is always right, even if we disagree. Like maybe we thought that Bitcoin and crypto was built for a certain purpose, but that purpose might be aligned with our ideals and what we feel is necessary. But if the free market realizes that they have different needs and they see different value in this technology, they will use it for that different value. And that's totally fair. It's part
Mm-hmm.
about being, having your opinion, but seeing how that aligns with everyone else in the world. And if they feel differently, they'll put their money in what they feel is important. And
Yeah,
that's the direction we've gone. So cool, cool.
yeah, and that makes sense. Like people still throw money. There's this discussion about energy usage in crypto, and according to the modern zeitgeist, it's like you know, according to the modern zeitgeist, everyone's saying, oh, we need to save on stuff. We need to save energy. But then the market gives money to Ethereum's still proof of work. So it gives money to the giant energy hogs of the world, basically. And so the market doesn't
Right,
seem
right.
to care quite as much, which
Yeah,
is
I
kind of
mean, it
funny.
doesn't care quite as much because for the most part, a lot of the people that are buying into Ethereum, they don't have energy issues. They're yeah, sure, energy is expensive in a lot of the U.S. Here in California, but really cost is only relative to how much a
Mm-hmm.
person has in wealth and how much they can make potential income and whatnot. And so if it's still manageable, it's not too big of an issue. So it's an issue that needs to be brought up. A lot of people that are more eco conscious might see that as an issue, especially if they don't see the fact that a lot of renewables can be and are being used in mining Bitcoin and ETH. But it's true. Like if number goes up, a lot of people that's their forefront importance. Impact on environment, impact on energy usage will be less of an issue because I'm investing in the coin. And maybe I'm not even mining it. I don't really care if it
Of
costs a lot to
course.
mine. It doesn't really matter to me. And in a way, how much it costs to mine will always be the same. It'll cost the amount to mine as the value of the coin, right?
Yeah.
The cost of mine just tracks that. It tracks it longer term. There's a bit of a delay, but it just will simply track it. If energy prices skyrocket, you'll just have less miners, but the amount of energy going into it in dollars is equal to the dollar of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that. Or the amount of coins that are mined every X number of minutes. That's the amount of resources that go into it, both electricity, CPU purchases, ASIC purchases, and manpower in the mining farms. It always tracks it, in the end. Plus for some companies, minus for others, but net equal in the end. And so it doesn't really matter what the price of energy is; it'll always level off with how much energy gets used. It's always relative to the price.
Yeah, it'll make
Yeah,
sense. Well, this has been
cool, cool.
great. Where can I send people to follow the awesome stuff you do?